The massive station floated in space between two bright stars. It looked like a giant wheel made of metal and glass, spinning slowly in the darkness. This was the Galactic Council, where hundreds of alien species came to talk and make decisions. Inside the station, beings of all shapes and sizes moved through the corridors. Some walked on 2 legs, some on 4. Some flew with wings, while others floated without touching the ground. Ambassador Ko stood in front of a large mirror in her private room. She adjusted her dark blue uniform and took a deep breath. Today was her first time speaking at the council. Behind her, Captain Park checked his own uniform. He was a tall man with short black hair and serious eyes. Years of military service had made him strong and careful. "Are you ready?" Park asked in Korean. His voice was calm and steady. Ko nodded. "As ready as I can be. This is important for Earth. We need to show them we are serious." They walked together through the curved hallways. Other aliens stared at them as they passed. Humans were still new to this place. Most species had been traveling through space for thousands of years. Earth had only known about aliens for 200 years. In that time, humans had stayed quiet and watched from far away. They built colonies on a few planets but never caused trouble. They were careful and patient. The council chamber was huge. The ceiling stretched high above, and hundreds of seats formed circles around a central platform. Each seat held a different alien. Ko saw creatures with scales, creatures with fur, creatures that looked like living rocks, and others that glowed with their own light. The noise of many languages filled the air, but translators turned everything into words she could understand. A tall, thin being with silver skin raised one long arm. The room became quiet. This was High Chancellor Morndath, leader of the council. His species was called the Ascended. They were ancient and wise, older than most civilizations in the galaxy. "We welcome Earth's representatives," Morndath said. His voice was deep and echoed through the chamber. "Ambassador Ko, you may take your seat." Ko and Park walked to the human section. Their seats were small and simple compared to others. As they sat down, Ko noticed a group of large reptilian aliens across the chamber. They were watching her with yellow eyes. Their scales were dark red and black, and sharp teeth showed when they smiled. These were the Velkari, one of the most powerful military species in the galaxy. The meeting began with normal business. Different species talked about trade agreements and border disputes. Ko listened carefully, learning how things worked here. Then Councillor Thexavara stood up. He was the leader of the Velkari Dominion. His body was massive, almost 3 meters tall, with thick armor-like scales covering his skin. "I have a matter to bring before this council," Thexavara said. His voice was rough and loud. "The humans have taken territory that belongs to the Velkari Dominion. They have built colonies in space that we claimed first. We demand they leave those worlds immediately." Ko felt her heart beat faster. She had expected this, but hearing it directly was different. She looked at Park. He gave a small nod. They had prepared for this moment. Ko stood up. "May I respond, High Chancellor?" Morndath gestured for her to speak. All eyes turned to the human ambassador. "The territories Councillor Thexavara mentions were empty when we arrived," Ko said clearly. "We sent survey teams first. We followed all the proper rules. We documented everything. Those worlds had no Velkari settlements, no Velkari claims, and no Velkari ships nearby. We have all the records to prove this." Thexavara laughed. It was a harsh, mocking sound. "Humans, you are so young, so weak. You come from a soft world with gentle weather and low gravity. You know nothing of real strength. Those territories are ours because we say they are ours. That is how power works in this galaxy." Several other aliens made sounds of agreement. Ko felt anger rising inside her, but she kept her face calm. Park, however, stood up beside her. His expression was cold and hard. "May I speak, Ambassador?" Park asked quietly. Ko hesitated, then nodded. Park stepped forward to the center platform. He looked directly at Thexavara. "You think we are weak?" Park said. His voice was calm, but everyone could hear the steel in it. "You look at Earth and see a planet with comfortable temperatures. You see oceans and forests. You see what you call a garden world. And you think this made us soft?" He paused and looked around the chamber. "Let me tell you about Earth. Yes, we have forests. Those forests have bears that can kill with one strike, tigers that hunt in silence, snakes whose bite brings death in minutes. We have oceans full of sharks and creatures with tentacles that can crush ships. We survived ice ages that covered entire continents in frozen death. We survived diseases that killed millions. We survived volcanoes, earthquakes, floods, and storms that would destroy most of your colonies. The chamber was completely silent now. Even Thexvara had stopped smiling. Park continued. But worse than all of that, we survived ourselves. We fought wars that killed hundreds of millions. We built weapons that could destroy our entire world. We nearly ended our own existence more than once. And yet we are still here. We learned, we grew, we united our entire planet under one government, not through conquest but through choice, through sacrifice, through determination. He turned back to Thexvara. You call us weak because our world did not have your high gravity? Because our sun did not burn as hot as yours? That is foolish. We are strong not because our world tried to kill us with environment alone. We are strong because everything tried to kill us, including ourselves, and we refused to die. Park's voice became quieter, but somehow more dangerous. So I will say this once and once only. Do not mistake our desire for peace as weakness. Do not mistake our patience as fear. We came to this council in good faith. We followed your rules. We respected your laws. But if you force our hand, if you push us into a corner, you will learn what a true Deathworld species can do. And I promise you, Counselor, you will not enjoy that lesson. The silence in the chamber was absolute. Some aliens looked shocked. Others looked thoughtful. High Chancellor Morndath leaned forward, his ancient eyes studying Park carefully. Captain Park, the Chancellor said slowly, your words carry weight. The initial survey of Earth did classify your world as a Class 12 death world. The Council remembers this. Perhaps it is time we all remembered it better. Thexvara stood up abruptly. This is nonsense. Death world or not, they are still newcomers. They have no right to challenge the Velkari Dominion. I will not accept this insult. Then what will you do about it? Park asked calmly. Thexvara's eyes burned with rage. You will see, human. You will see very soon. The Velkari counselor turned and walked out of the chamber. His followers went with him. The meeting dissolved into worried whispers and urgent conversations. Ko touched Park's arm gently. That was dangerous, she said quietly. Park nodded. I know, but it was necessary. They needed to understand we are not afraid. Now they know. As they left the council chamber, neither of them noticed the small recording device that had captured everything. The warning had been given. Now the galaxy would see if the Velkari were wise enough to listen, or foolish enough to test the humans' words. Deep in Velkari space, military commanders were already receiving orders. War fleets were preparing to launch. The countdown had begun. 2 weeks had passed since the confrontation at the Galactic Council. Commander Shin sat in the control room of New Busan Station, watching the starfield on the main screen. New Busan was humanity's largest outer colony, home to 2,300,000 people. The station orbited a green and blue planet that reminded many settlers of Earth. Around the planet, cargo ships moved slowly, carrying supplies and equipment. Shin was a woman in her 40s with tired eyes and gray streaks in her black hair. She had commanded this station for 5 years. It was supposed to be a peaceful assignment, a place where families could build new lives far from Earth's crowded cities. She looked at the duty roster on her tablet and sighed. Everything seemed normal. Commander, Lieutenant Yoon called out from her station. The young officer's voice was sharp with alarm. Multiple hyperspace signatures detected. Large ones. Very large. Shin stood up immediately. How many? Counting now. 40 and 60, 80. Yoon's fingers flew across her controls. Commander, we have over 100 warships entering the system. They're Velkari. The control room went silent. Everyone knew what this meant. Shin felt her stomach tighten, but she kept her voice steady. Sound the alarm. Begin civilian evacuation procedures. Get everyone into the underground shelters. Move. Sirens began to wail across the colony. People stopped what they were doing and ran toward the emergency shelters. Parents grabbed children. Workers abandoned their tools. Everyone had practiced this drill many times, but now it was real. The streets filled with rushing crowds, all moving in the same direction. Down, underground, to safety. On the main screen, the Velkari fleet became visible. Their ships were massive, dark red metal covered with spikes and weapons. They moved in formation, surrounding the planet like predators circling prey. In the center was a command ship twice the size of the others. Its hull bore the symbol of the Velkari Dominion. A message came through on all frequencies. A large Velkari face appeared on every screen in the station. It was Fleet Commander Crosstell, his yellow eyes cold and merciless. Humans of New Busan, you have 1 solar cycle to evacuate this colony. Take your ships and leave. If you remain, we will destroy everything. This is your only warning. Shin looked at her crew. She saw fear in their eyes, but also determination. She pressed the button to open a secure channel to Earth. This is New Busan Station requesting immediate contact with Earth Command. The wait felt like hours, but it was only minutes. Then Admiral An's face appeared on the private screen. The old admiral looked tired, but his eyes were sharp and focused. Behind him, Shin could see the busy operations center on Luna, Earth's moon. Commander Shin, An said, I've seen the sensor data. How long until all civilians are secure? 2 hours, sir. Maybe less. Good, listen carefully. You are authorized to use Protocol Artemis. Do you understand? Shin's eyes widened. Protocol Artemis was the final defensive option. It meant revealing everything they had hidden. Everything they had prepared for years. Sir, if we use Protocol Artemis, the galaxy will know what we've been building. I know, An said grimly. But the time for hiding is over. The Velkari chose this. Show them what happens when they threaten human lives. I'm sending reinforcements, but they won't arrive for 3 days. Can you hold? Shin straightened her shoulders. Yes, sir. We'll hold. The connection ended. Shin turned to her crew. Lieutenant Yoon, activate all hidden defensive systems. Authorization code Shin 77 Omega. Yoon's fingers trembled slightly as she entered the codes. Around the planet, things began to change. Asteroids that had seemed normal suddenly split open. Inside each one were weapons platforms bristling with missiles and energy cannons. Small objects that looked like space debris powered up, revealing themselves as stealth mines. The station itself transformed. Panels slid away to show massive railguns that had been hidden in the structure. On the Velkari command ship, Fleet Commander Crosstell watched his sensors with growing confusion. What is this? Where did all these weapons come from? His tactical officer studied the readings. Commander, the humans have been building a defensive network for years. This entire system is a fortress. We were deceived, Crosstell snarled. It doesn't matter. We outnumber them 10 to 1. All ships attack formation. Destroy those platforms. The Velkari fleet moved forward. Their weapons began to fire. Bright energy beams crossing the darkness of space. But the human defenses fired back. Railguns launched metal slugs at incredible speeds. Each projectile moved so fast it became a streak of light. When they hit Velkari shields, the shields shattered like glass. Impossible, Crosstell roared. Their weapons should not penetrate our shields. But they did. Human engineers had studied Velkari technology for years. They knew exactly how those shields worked. They knew how to break them. Ship after ship took damage. Some exploded. Others spun out of control, their systems failing. Then the missiles launched. Hundreds of them streaked from the hidden platforms. But these were not normal missiles. Crosstell's sensors detected something that made his blood run cold. Nuclear warheads. The humans are using nuclear weapons in space. In the galactic community, nuclear weapons were considered primitive and barbaric. Most species had banned them thousands of years ago, but humans had no such restrictions. The missiles detonated among the Velkari ships. Massive explosions tore through formations. Ships that survived the initial blast found their electronics scrambled by electromagnetic pulses. On New Busan Station, Commander Shin watched the battle unfold. Her people were cheering, but she felt no joy. Only grim satisfaction? This was what they had prepared for. This was what Admiral An had warned the Council about. The Velkari had not listened. Commander, Dr. Han called from the medical bay. We have captured Velkari soldiers. 5 of them. They were on a boarding craft that got disabled. Should we eliminate them? No, Shin said firmly. Treat their wounds. Keep them secured, but treat them well. We are not savages, Doctor. We fight when we must, but we don't murder prisoners. The battle raged for hours, slowly. The Velkari realized they could not win. Their superior numbers meant nothing against the prepared defenses. Their advanced shields could not stop human weapons. And their own weapons, designed for fighting other galactic species, were not effective against human military technology. Finally, Fleet Commander Crosstell made the hardest decision of his life. All ships retreat. Fall back to hyperspace coordinates. The surviving Velkari ships turned and ran. Out of 120 vessels that had entered the system, only 80 escaped. 40 ships floated dead in space or had been completely destroyed. It was a devastating defeat. In the medical bay, Dr. Han examined the captured Velkari soldiers. They were impressive physically, much larger and stronger than humans, but as he studied their biology, he made notes in his report. Their scales, while tough, could be penetrated by human weapons. Their eyes were sensitive to certain light frequencies. Their reaction time, while good, was slower than human reflexes. Every species had weaknesses. The humans had spent 200 years finding them. Commander Shin sat down for the first time in 8 hours. Her uniform was soaked with sweat. Lieutenant Yoon brought her water and she drank it gratefully. Around her, the crew was exhausted but alive. The civilians were safe in their shelters. The colony had survived. "Send a message to Earth Command," Shin said quietly. "Tell Admiral An we held. Tell him the Velkari ran." As the message traveled through space, news of the battle spread across the galaxy. The recordings were everywhere. Every species saw the footage. The Velkari Dominion, one of the most feared military powers, had attacked a single human colony. And they had been beaten. Badly. Now everyone was asking the same question. If one colony could do this, what could Earth itself do? What were these humans really capable of? The galaxy was about to find out. The emergency session of the Galactic Council began within hours of the battle at New Busan. Ambassador Ko walked through the corridors with Captain Park at her side. This time the other species did not just stare. They moved out of the way. Some looked at the humans with respect, others with fear, many with both. Inside the council chamber, the atmosphere was tense. Ko could see groups of aliens talking in urgent whispers. The Velkari section was full, with Councillor Thexvara sitting rigid in his seat. His face showed barely controlled rage. Near him sat representatives from 6 other military species. They had clearly been planning together. High Chancellor Morndath called the session to order. His ancient face was troubled. "We are here to discuss the incident at the human colony of New Busan. Ambassador Ko, you have requested time to present evidence. You may proceed." Ko stood and activated the holographic display. Images appeared in the center of the chamber, floating in the air for everyone to see. They showed the Velkari fleet arriving at New Busan. They showed Fleet Commander Crosstell's ultimatum. They showed the attack beginning. Every detail was recorded. "As you can see," Ko said calmly, "the Velkari Dominion launched an unprovoked military assault on a civilian colony. We had issued no threats. We had taken no hostile actions. They simply decided they wanted our territory and tried to take it by force. Under galactic law, we had every right to defend ourselves." Captain Park stepped forward. "Our defense was measured and appropriate. We targeted only military vessels. We sent warnings before each engagement. We treated captured soldiers according to the standards of the Galactic Conventions. We followed every rule." Councillor Vormek of the Thryn Collective spoke up. The Thryn were a peaceful species, traders and diplomats. "The evidence is clear. The Velkari acted as aggressors. I propose immediate sanctions against the Velkari Dominion and reparations to be paid to the human colony." Thexvara exploded from his seat. "Sanctions? Reparations? You dare suggest the Velkari Dominion should bow to these primitives? Did you see what weapons they used? Nuclear devices, kinetic bombardment. These are barbaric, outdated technologies that civilized species abandoned millennia ago. They are a danger to everyone." Park's voice cut through the chamber like a blade. "Our weapons worked, didn't they? Your advanced shields and energy weapons could not stop simple metal moving very fast. Perhaps the problem is not that our technology is primitive. Perhaps the problem is that you became so confident in your superiority that you forgot how to fight effectively." Several species made sounds of shock at Park's bluntness, but others nodded slowly. It was true. The galactic community had been at peace for so long that their military technology had become more about showing power than actual combat effectiveness. High Chancellor Morndath raised his hand for silence. Captain Park speaks harsh truths. However, Councillor Thexvara raises a valid concern. Humans. Your use of nuclear weapons in space combat is disturbing. Why do you maintain such dangerous armaments? Ko answered this time. High Chancellor, we maintain them because they work. Because they are reliable. Because in our history, we learned that survival often depends on using every advantage available. You call nuclear weapons dangerous, we agree. That is why we control them carefully. That is why we only use them when our people's lives are threatened. We do not use them for conquest or intimidation. Only for defense, she paused, then continued. Let me share something with you. When humans first developed nuclear weapons, we almost destroyed ourselves. Millions died. Our entire species came close to extinction. We learned the hard way what these weapons can do. We respect their power because we have felt their horror. Can any other species in this chamber say the same? Can you truly understand the weight of holding such power because you have suffered under it? The chamber was quiet. Morndeth looked at Ko with something like understanding in his ancient eyes. You make a troubling point, Ambassador. Perhaps wisdom comes not from avoiding terrible knowledge, but from learning how to live with it. Thexavara stood again. His voice was cold and filled with threat. Enough philosophy. The Velkari Dominion does not accept this council's judgment. We have been humiliated by an inferior species. This cannot stand. We call upon our allies to join us. Together we will teach humanity its proper place in the galaxy. One by one, 6 other species stood in support. The Prithian hives with their insect warriors. The Threxian clans with their armored soldiers. The Korthax Empire with their battle fleets. The Drevine Collective. The Morphean Assembly. The Scaroth Dynasty. Each was a powerful military force. Together they represented the strongest fighting power in the known galaxy. Councillor Vormak looked at the alliance with horror. This is madness. You would start a war over pride? The humans defended their home. They broke no laws. What you propose is genocide. Not genocide, Thexvara said with a cruel smile. Education. The humans need to learn that strength is earned through evolution, through surviving harsh worlds, through thousands of years of warfare among the stars. They are children playing with dangerous toys. We will take those toys away. Captain Park stepped forward one more time. His face was expressionless, but his voice carried to every corner of the chamber. You speak of evolution in harsh worlds. Let me tell you something about Earth. Our planet tried to kill us every single day, not with simple high gravity or extreme temperatures. With complexity, with predators that learned and adapted, with diseases that evolved faster than we could cure them, with weather patterns that changed without warning, with our own kind turning against us in ways you cannot imagine. He looked directly at each of the 7 species who had stood with Thexvara. You think you know war? You fight according to rules and traditions. You have honor codes and acceptable tactics. You have thousands of years of doing things the same way. Humans? We learn to fight by fighting everything. We learn to win by refusing to lose. We learn to survive by outlasting every threat that came for us. Park's voice became quieter but more intense. You want to come to Earth? To attack our homeworld? Then come. Bring your fleets. Bring your warriors. Bring your advanced technology and your proud traditions. Earth has waited 200 years for this moment. Not because we wanted war, but because we knew someday someone would test us. Someone would need to learn the lesson you refused to hear at New Busan. He turned to address the entire council. We came here in peace. We followed your rules. We asked for nothing but the right to exist. You answered with threats and invasion, so now we will show you what a Deathworld species really means. It does not mean we come from a harsh environment. It means we are the ones who survived when everything else died. It means we are the ones who learned to thrive when extinction was certain. It means we are the ones who never ever give up. Silence filled the chamber. Then Ambassador Ko spoke one final time. This council is divided. We understand that. We harbor no ill will toward those species who wish to remain neutral. But to those who choose to attack us, know this. You will face the full might of humanity. You will face a species that has spent 2 centuries preparing for this exact scenario. You will face a people who unified an entire world through determination and sacrifice, and you will lose. Ko and Park turned and walked out of the chamber together. Behind them, the council erupted into chaos. Species argued with each other. Alliances formed and broke. Threats were made and countered. High Chancellor Morndeth tried to restore order, but it was too late. The galaxy was splitting into factions. As their ship departed the council station, Ko looked at Park. We just declared war on 7 of the most powerful species in the galaxy. Park nodded. Yes, but we did not start this war, they did. Now we finish it. Their ship jumped to hyperspace, carrying the news back to Earth. Behind them, the coalition forces began to mobilize. Thousands of warships prepared for launch. Millions of soldiers readied their equipment. The greatest military alliance in galactic history was forming with one goal: destroy humanity before it could become a real threat. But they had made one critical mistake. They still thought of humans as weak newcomers. They did not understand that humans had been preparing for this fight since the day they reached the stars. The countdown to the Battle of Sol had begun. Earth transformed in the days following the council session. From space, the planet looked the same with its blue oceans and white clouds, but on the surface and in orbit everything had changed. Admiral An stood in the command center on Luna, Earth's moon, watching hundreds of screens showing activity across the solar system. Around him, officers worked at computer stations, coordinating the massive mobilization. "Report," An said to his aide, a young officer named Lieutenant Minsur. "All major shipyards are operating at maximum capacity. Mars Orbital is producing 3 destroyers per day. The Jovian yards have launched 15 cruisers this week. Earth's surface factories are working triple shifts on weapon systems. Military reserves have been activated. We estimate full battle readiness in 72 hours. An nodded. 72 hours. 3 days. The coalition would need at least 2 weeks to gather their forces and travel to Sol. That gave humanity time, but not much. He pressed a button on his console. "Get me Dr. Zhang." Dr. Zhang appeared on the screen. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and quick movements. Behind her, An could see a laboratory filled with strange equipment and busy scientists. "Admiral, I was hoping you would call. I have updates on the weapons programs." "Show me," An said. Dr. Zhang's fingers flew across her tablet. New images appeared on An's screen. "We have completed analysis of all 7 coalition species. Each one has specific vulnerabilities. For the Velkari, their neural systems operate on a specific frequency. We have developed directed energy weapons that will disrupt their brain function. It won't kill them, but it will disable them completely." She swiped to the next image. "The Threxian armor is impressive, but it is organic metal grown from their own bodies. We have created nanite swarms that will corrode it rapidly. For the Prithian hives, their communication relies on pheromones and subsonic signals. Our sonic disruptors will make their formations collapse into chaos. Each species has been studied. Each species has a counterweapon ready." An allowed himself a small smile. "How long have we been preparing these weapons?" "Since first contact, sir. 203 years. Every time we met a new species, we studied them. Not because we wanted to attack them, but because we needed to know how to defend against them if necessary. It is just good planning." "Indeed it is, Doctor. Continue your work." "I want all systems tested and ready for deployment." The connection ended. An turned his attention to the tactical display showing ship movements throughout the Sol system. Fleet Admiral Bay was organizing the defense forces with practiced efficiency. The first battle group was taking position near Jupiter. The second group held the Mars sector. The third group guarded the asteroid belt. Each position had been planned years ago. Nothing was left to chance. In orbit above Earth, General Choi watched her Marines conduct boarding drills. The soldiers moved through mock-up corridors in zero gravity, their movements smooth and coordinated. Choi herself was a veteran of dozens of combat operations. She knew how to fight in any environment. Now she was teaching that knowledge to thousands of young men and women. "Faster," she shouted at a squad struggling with a locked door. "The enemy will not wait for you to figure out the controls. Adapt, improvise. That door opens or you cut through the wall." The soldiers responded immediately. One pulled out a plasma cutter while others covered the corners. Within seconds, they had cut a new entrance and poured through. Choi nodded in approval. These young people learned fast. They had to. Human biology gave them advantages in close combat. Faster reaction times, better spatial awareness in 3 dimensions, higher pain tolerance. But those advantages meant nothing without training and discipline. Captain Park had been assigned to a different task. He sat in a conference room with 11 other officers. Each was a specialist in unconventional warfare. They were planning operations that would never appear in official records. Operations that most of the galaxy would consider dishonorable. But humans had learned long ago that survival sometimes required doing what others considered unthinkable. "The coalition will attack with overwhelming force," Park said, pointing at a holographic map. "They believe in direct assault, in showing their strength openly. We can use that against them. Small strike teams can infiltrate their support vessels, cut supply lines, sabotage communications, make them afraid of shadows." Commander Lee spoke up. She was an intelligence officer with cold eyes. "We have assets in place already. Observers who have been watching coalition movements for years. They report the alliance is gathering near the Proxima system. They will launch from there. Travel time to Sol is estimated at 10 to 12 days. Can we hit them before they reach us? Another officer asked. Park shook his head. No. Attacking them in neutral space would give them political justification. Right now, they are the aggressors. We need to maintain that position. Let them come to Earth. Let them attack our homeworld. Then the entire galaxy will see who the real monsters are. The meeting continued for hours. Plans were made and refined. Contingencies were prepared. Every possible scenario was discussed. By the time they finished, Park felt exhausted but confident. The coalition had numbers and technology, but humanity had something more valuable. They had experience from thousands of years of fighting wars. They had learned lessons written in blood across every continent of Earth. Ambassador Ko was not idle either. She traveled to the colonies, speaking to the people, assuring them that Earth would protect them, explaining what was coming. Many were afraid, and she did not blame them. But she also saw determination in their eyes. These people had left Earth to build new lives. They would not surrender those dreams without a fight. On the 5th day of preparation, Ko received a private message. It came through secure channels from an unexpected source. Counselor Vormek of the Thrin Collective wanted to speak with her. Ko accepted the communication in her private quarters. Vormek's face appeared on her screen. The Thrin looked worried. Ambassador Ko, I am taking a great risk contacting you. But I felt I must warn you. The Coalition has assembled over 3,000 warships. It is the largest military force in recorded galactic history. They plan to strike directly at Earth. They believe overwhelming force will break your spirit quickly. Ko felt her heart sink. 3,000 ships. That was far more than intelligence had estimated. But she kept her voice steady. Thank you, Counselor. Why are you telling me this? Because this is wrong, Vormek said simply. The Thrin have watched humanity for 2 centuries. We saw how you unified your world, how you approached space exploration with caution and wisdom, how you treated other species with respect even when you had been treated poorly. You do not deserve this fate. I cannot stop the Coalition, but I can at least give you this information. You are a good person, Counselor. When this is over, whatever the outcome, I hope the Thrin and humanity can be friends. Vormek nodded. I hope so as well. Good luck, Ambassador. May your species survive what is coming. The connection ended. Ko sat in silence for a moment, then opened a channel to Admiral On. Sir, we need to talk. I have new intelligence about Coalition strength. When On heard the numbers, his face became grim. 3,000 ships against the few hundred humanity could field. The odds were terrible. But he had faced bad odds before. Earth had faced extinction events and survived. This was just another test. Adjust the defensive plan, On ordered his staff. Spread our forces thinner but deeper. Multiple layers of defense. Make them fight for every meter of space. Use the sun's gravity well to our advantage. Activate all automated defense platforms. Wake up every mine and drone we have hidden throughout the system. If they want Earth, they will pay for it with blood. As the final preparations were made, a strange calm settled over humanity. Everyone knew what was coming. Everyone understood the danger. But there was no panic, no chaos, just quiet determination. For 200 years, humans had watched the galaxy and learned its ways. They had seen how other species fought, how they thought, how they failed. Now it was time to show the galaxy what a true Deathworld species could do. On Earth, families gathered together. In orbit, soldiers checked their weapons one last time. On Luna, Admiral On stood before a window looking down at the blue and white planet below. Behind him, his command staff worked efficiently and quietly. Somewhere out in the darkness of space, 3,000 enemy ships were traveling toward them. The greatest battle in human history was about to begin. Earth was ready. Let them come. The Coalition fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. 3,000 warships materialized in the darkness, their running lights creating a field of stars where none had existed before. On the bridge of the command ship Dominant Will, Counselor Thexvara stood tall and proud. Around him, holographic displays showed the entire fleet in formation. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. Send the message, Thexvara ordered. His communications officer activated the broadcast. Thexvara's face and voice were transmitted to every inhabited place in the Sol system. To Earth, to Mars, to the colonies on Jupiter's moons, to every space station and mining facility. Humans of Earth, you have 24 hours to surrender unconditionally. Abandon your worlds. Turn over all military assets. Accept coalition governance. If you refuse, we will destroy everything you have built. This is your only chance for mercy. On Luna command, Admiral An listened to the message with no expression on his face. Around him, his officers waited for his response. An looked at each of them, then at the tactical display showing the massive enemy fleet. Finally, he opened a channel that would broadcast to the coalition forces and across the entire galaxy. No, An said simply. Then he closed the channel. That single word echoed across space. No explanations. No speeches. Just a flat refusal. Thexvar's face twisted with rage. They dare. All ships advance. Battle formation. We will teach them what defiance costs. The coalition armada began to move forward. Thexvara expected to sweep aside any defenses easily. He expected the humans to panic when they saw the true size of his forces. Instead, something else happened. The space between his fleet and Earth began to fill with warning indicators on his tactical screens. What is this? He demanded. His sensor officer's voice was shaking. Sir, we are detecting weapons platforms throughout the system. Thousands of them. They were hidden. Some are disguised as asteroids. Some are camouflaged against the planets. Some are so small our sensors barely register them. Sir, the entire Sol system is a fortress. Thexvara stared at the display. It was impossible. No species fortified an entire star system. The resources required would be enormous. But the humans had done it anyway. For 200 years they had been building, preparing, waiting. It does not matter, Thexvara growled. We still outnumber them. Continue the advance. The first weapons platforms opened fire as the coalition fleet reached Jupiter. Missiles streaked across the void. Railguns hurled projectiles at relativistic speeds. Energy beams lanced through the darkness. The coalition ships raised their shields and returned fire. The battle had begun. Near Jupiter's orbit, Fleet Admiral Bay commanded the first battle group. He had 47 capital ships and 200 smaller vessels. Against him came 500 coalition warships. The odds were terrible, but Bay had planned for this. His ships did not fight in formation. They scattered, using the massive planet's gravity and magnetic field to their advantage. Coalition ships that pursued found themselves pulled into Jupiter's atmosphere or bombarded by radiation from the planet's intense magnetosphere. Bay's vessels worked in small groups, like wolf packs hunting larger prey. 3 destroyers would coordinate to attack a single coalition cruiser from different angles. When the enemy focused on one ship, the others would strike at vulnerable points. The human ships were smaller and faster. They could accelerate and turn more quickly than the massive coalition vessels. What they lacked in size, they made up for in mobility and tactics. At the asteroid belt, the coalition encountered something even more unexpected. Hundreds of asteroids that seemed normal suddenly revealed themselves as hollowed-out fortresses. Massive doors opened to expose weapon batteries. The asteroids themselves began to move, small engines pushing them toward the enemy fleet. Coalition ships tried to destroy them, but each asteroid was just rock on the outside. It took multiple shots to break through to the weapons hidden inside. And while they focused on the obvious threats, smaller dangers struck. Mines that had drifted for years suddenly activated. Automated drones swarmed from hidden bunkers. The space between Mars and Jupiter became a chaotic battlefield, where death could come from any direction. Captain Park watched from the bridge of the shadow of Inchon. His stealth ship was invisible to coalition sensors, hidden among the debris and chaos. Behind him stood 50 commandos in powered armor. Their mission was simple but extremely dangerous. Board the coalition command ship. Capture or kill the leadership. Break their coordination. Take us in, Park ordered quietly. The shadow of Inchon slipped through the battle like a ghost. Coalition ships never saw it coming. The stealth vessel attached itself to the hull of the dominant will and began cutting through. Inside the coalition flagship, alarms suddenly blared. Thexvara looked up from his tactical display in confusion. Report. What is happening? Hull breach! Section 7. Intruders. The security officer's voice was panicked. Park and his commandos poured through the breach. The corridors of the coalition ship were wide and tall, built for larger species. That gave the humans room to move. Velkari soldiers rushed to stop them, but the humans were ready. Dr. Zhang's neural disruptors fired invisible beams. Velkari warriors suddenly collapsed, their nervous systems overloaded. Those that got close enough to fight found that human speed and reflexes gave them an edge even against larger, stronger opponents. The commandos moved through the ship like a deadly tide. They knew the layout from intelligence gathered over years. They knew where to go and what to target. Behind them, they left disabled enemies and destroyed control systems. The Coalition had never experienced boarding actions like this. Their tactics were designed for large-scale fleet combat, not close-quarters fighting against smaller, faster opponents. Park reached the bridge first. He placed explosive charges on the door and signaled his team. The blast blew the door inward. Smoke and debris filled the entrance. Through it came the human commandos. Thexvara roared and charged at Park. The Velkari counselor was massive, over 2 meters of muscle and armored scales. His claws could tear through metal, but Park was not afraid. He had trained for this his entire life. As Thexvara swung, Park ducked under the attack and rolled to the side. His rifle fired 3 precise shots at weak points in the Velkari's armor. Thexvara roared in pain but kept fighting. Park's team provided covering fire while he maneuvered for position. It was not an honorable duel. It was survival combat, humanity's oldest and most brutal form of warfare. Finally, Park saw his opening. As Thexvara lunged forward, Park stepped inside the attack and fired his rifle at point-blank range into the Velkari's knee joint. Thexvara's leg collapsed. The mighty counselor fell to the deck, howling in rage and pain. Park put his rifle against Thexvara's head but did not fire. "Surrender," Park said coldly. "Order your fleet to retreat. You have lost." Thexvara looked up at the human standing over him. For the first time, he understood. These creatures were not weak. They were not soft. They were predators who had learned to hide their teeth until the moment to strike. He had made a terrible mistake. While Park secured the command ship, the battle continued across the system. Near Mars, High Marshal Droken led a desperate assault. 500 ships tried to punch through to Earth itself. They met the planetary defense network. Massive energy shields powered by fusion reactors buried deep in Earth's crust flickered to life. The Coalition ships fired everything they had at the barrier. Missiles, energy weapons, kinetic rounds. Nothing penetrated. Admiral An watched from Luna Command. All orbital batteries fire at will. Weapons platforms hidden on Earth's moon opened fire. The barrage was devastating. Coalition ships that had exhausted their ammunition trying to break the shield were now defenseless. One by one, they were destroyed or disabled. Drokan watched his attack force die around him. With bitter rage, he gave the order to retreat. Across the Sol system, the same story repeated. Coalition forces found themselves outmaneuvered, outfought, and overwhelmed by defenses they had never imagined existed. Their numbers meant nothing when every meter of space was contested. Their superior technology failed against weapons specifically designed to counter it. Their proud warriors fell before opponents who fought without honor, but with absolute effectiveness. After 37 hours of continuous combat, it was over. The Coalition had entered the system with 3,000 ships. Less than 1,300 escaped. Over 1,800 were destroyed or captured. The casualties were staggering. The defeat was total and absolute. Humanity had suffered losses too. Many ships were destroyed. Thousands of soldiers and crew members had died. But Earth stood. Luna stood. Mars stood. Every human world and station remained free. The Deathworlders had defended their home. Now the entire galaxy knew what that meant.